So TerraX Minerals may be new to some of you. It seems like it's new to a lot of people. It's somewhat new to me. I joined the company this summer and moved to Vancouver in September from Toronto. It's a very interesting experience being up here looking at a group of investors because I come from the capital markets background. I worked in institutional brokerage. I've been involved with many companies like TerraX, and I spent so much time focusing on helping people, communicate the message for their company. And that experience was interesting, sitting here at the table and listening to Gwen talk about, what it is that you all should be looking at in a company to invest in. And so TerraX is a company that certainly was interesting to me. Coming from a capital markets background, a partner in a brokerage firm in Toronto, had a chance to look at a whole bunch of these projects over time, and when this one was dropped in my lap and there was an opportunity to bring something to the table, I jumped on it right away. The number one reason is the land package, and I'm going to repeat myself a fair bit here, I think, so forgive me, but this is a high-grade district scale project next to a town surrounding loads of historical production, as Gwen had mentioned, the Con and Giant Mine. So what do we have? Who put this together? It's Joe Campbell. Joe Campbell is a geologist who falls in love with rocks, as Gwen said, and he's fallen in love with some pretty good ones. Joe and his team discovered the Meliadine project. They worked on it for 7 years. That was subsequently sold to Agnico for north of $700 million. This is a team that falls in love with rocks, but certainly knows how to fall in love with the right ones. On that basis, I fell in love with them because what I bring to the table is the plan that Gwen so aptly pointed out. I don't bring the plan, but I bring a plan. My goal is to be focused, to communicate our focus plan, and to be out there on the road marketing like crazy, raising money so that Joe and the team can continue to deliver. Our board of directors, I'll point out two key directors. We have Elif Levesque from Osisko Gold Royalties, and also Renee Carrier. Rennie was the lead director of IRC, which Doug Silver and team sold to Osisko. I won't stay here very long, but what we're very proud to say is that we have a management and insider ownership of over 11%. I can safely say that I know where over 50% of the float lives. It's not the tightest share structure in the world, but it's in good hands. We just announced a $1.5 million private placement, and it certainly was not difficult to get people to come to the table. We'll be announcing the closure of that shortly, and our cash balance will recognize that, reflect that. So, where are we? We're right next to Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. You can see that Meadowbank and Meliadine are both on that map. It's an Archean Greenstone Belt. There's a tremendous package here. It's 100% owned. It's 800 square kilometers. Majors love looking at these large packages, but what do you do with them? How do you actually show that there's endowment? Well, first of all, it's easy for us to work on this project, and it's easy for us to develop those and show those resources because we're right next to town. I've got a picture of the skyline here because Yellowknife is not a small town. It's the seat of government. There's a tremendous mining history. There's a huge will in the community to move forward with TerraX. Our core shack is right at the airport, and it's a very short flight from anywhere on our property. In fact, I've also got a picture of Tim Hortons on here, and that's because our geologists say that in the wintertime, you can go to Tim Hortons, and when you get to the drill rig, your coffee is still too hot to drink. It's cold there, though, so I must be using some pretty thick mugs. Here we just have a map showing, the scale and the endowment of the property. We've got over 75 kilometers of strike. We've highlighted some of the names of our trends, our targets here. What we're really doing is, picking up, as Gwen said, highly prospective ground. We're trying to test and truth it to make sure that we're in the right places. But going forward here, we're going to use what I like to say is about 7.5% of our total property. This is where we know the most about the asset. There's 56,000 meters of drilling done on this piece. There's historical drilling done here. This summer we completed a number of other data sets, biogeochem, geophysics, LIDAR, land-based and air-based mag work. And so what we have here, these blobs are block models. We have effectively an internal resource. We're happy with it. We're not happy to put it out to the public because it just doesn't do this ground justice. Everything is open along strike and at depth. So what's the plan, Dave? What do you bring to these geologists who have fallen in love with these lovely rocks? Well, we've been informed by the market that there seems to be a lack of focus. So what are we going to do? We're going to focus. And we're going to focus just on that area that you just saw. Just to give you a quick idea here, the yellow long sections are those red blobs that you saw on the previous picture. These other two are the giant mine and the con mine. You can see how close they are. You can see how they resemble one another. And what we're doing with all of our other data sets is we're trying to find that next giant mine. The giant mine didn't actually have high-grade gold coming up to surface necessarily. It was the deeper you went, the higher the grade. So we're also making sure not just to show off flashy chip samples and high grade on the surface, we're also looking for all those pathfinder elements on the surface to take us to that high grade gold underground. We just completed a session with our geologists and some external very smart minds. We've completed that targeting session and we'll be able to get out on the road with that targeting plan. That's all going to be again focused right here on the North Belt. We'll spend 90% of our time and money delineating a high-grade scalable resource. So how many targets did we have here? In that session, we started with like 34 targets. I said, guys, maybe we could narrow that down. It's important to do that, and it's important to be able to say that you're focused. We're going to narrow that down to about 4 targets on this page right here, and that piece will be out, and we'll be out marketing that shortly. We're going to go around the world. We're going to show everybody that plan because we believe that if you execute on a plan and nobody's looking, your share price ain't going up. So I'm going to also draw attention to the prospectivity of some of the other areas of this. We do tout this as a district scale project. We want the majors to be attracted to it. We're not just going to leave prospective land behind. We're still going to continue to work prospective areas. This is Joe Campbell's, next and favorite place to go. I got to keep him on track, but I also got to let him go and take some big swings. There's no question that everybody in this room wants to see large discoveries. There's huge potential on this property for large discoveries, and some of our samples show it. So what are the catalysts? Well, we're going to go out with a high-grade drill program. We just completed the targeting session for that. We have some targets that we know. We have targets that we've never drilled that are close to targets that we have drilled. Very excited with that. They're at the top of our list, and then we've got the other 34 targets that we can feed up through the pipeline and a work plan that will take them there. We'll also be able to talk about metallurgy. So far we've done some work. Very encouraged to see what's coming through there. And as we progress, we'll certainly keep the market abreast because there have been questions about that. I had questions about that. Those questions have so far been dispelled for me. Thank you very much for listening, and I encourage you to stop by the booth and ask any other questions you might have. Thank you.